Whether you're dreaming of a retirement with sand between your toes and a cold one in your hand, hitting the road to chase the winds of adventure, or spending time with your grandchildren, this show is intended to help you get there. Welcome to Coasting in Retirement with your host, Josh Knoll. You've worked too hard throughout your career to spend your retirement worrying. So sit back, kick up your feet, because we've got lots of financial tips and tricks to share to help you get exactly where you want to be. Here's Josh.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Coasting in Retirement. I'm your host, Josh Knoll, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michelle Lee Melton. Michelle, how you doing today?
Doing very well.
Well, good.
Thank you.
Good to see you on a bright, sunny day before it turns crappy weather, right?
That's correct. It's going downhill from here.
Yes, all right. Well, Michelle, we got a great show today. We're going to continue our theme of tying in our main topic to the start of the new year. 2023, we see you. So first, for those of you new to the show, I'm the owner of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. It's an independent financial planning firm based out of downtown Fairhope, Alabama. We serve clients up and down the Gulf Coast. You can learn more about us on our website, gulfcoastfa.com, and we'll repeat that several times throughout this program. As always, Michelle and I are here today to discuss financial topics relevant to those near or in retirement, living their best life along our part of the coast. Our topic last week and this week is New Year's financial intentions versus resolutions. Last week's episode was titled The Top 7 Financial Intentions That Every Retiree and Pre-Retiree Should Have for 2023. Michelle and I were able to get through the first 4, so this week we're going to lay out the remaining 3 resolutions, plus I've added a bonus resolution for fun. Now, for those of you that missed our last episode and want to get caught up, you can find the podcast version by searching for Coasting in Retirement on Spotify, or by simply going to the podcast page of our website. That's gulfcoastfa.com again. So Michelle, let's catch up those just tuning in. You and I started our new year with what we called intentions. Would you mind to describe what that means again?
Okay. And you're going to talk about 3 remaining intentions,
That's
not
right.
Resolutions, right?
That's correct.
Plus a bonus one.
So first we got to define it.
Okay. So intentions are the courses of action versus resolutions that are more of a determination. So in other words, resolutions equal outcome, intentions equal the process.
The process. Very good. So when you sent that definition to me way back, it got me thinking, a show based on financial resolutions, that'd be too easy. Save more, spend less, buy generic, you get the idea. So like we said last week, Michelle and I, we must try harder. So what we did is we dug deep and we gave intentions a space to breathe over a 2-part mini episode series. So this is part 2. What should be the final 3 plus a bonus 4th, financial intentions of pre-retirees and retirees in 2023. So before we get into those, let's quickly sum up the first 4 financial intentions from last week's episode in case you all missed it. Number 1, and this was never in any particular order, nor are the intentions that we're going to list today. They're not in a particular order. Number 1 was reorganize your financial plan to deal with sequence of return risk. Take a hard look at your Social Security and, if possible, delay turning on your benefits. Number 3, investigate how a high interest rate environment can actually be your ally when it comes to income production in retirement. Number 4 was take real action to accommodate inflation in your retirement plan, including an honest assessment of how much inflation is affecting your daily living versus your investment accounts. So again, if you want to hear more about those first 4 intentions, just go back and check our podcast version of the show or go to my website. So now on to the remaining 3 plus 1 financial intentions of 2023 for those in or near retirement. So one more time, remember, these are not in any particular order. We're gonna list them, then we're going to break them down further in the segment. So here we go. Number 5, schedule a meeting with a fiduciary-based financial advisor. Number 6, update your will. Do a checkup of any trust. Check your beneficiaries on all your assets and your insurance policies. Then have an open and honest conversation with each other if you are married, with your spouse, or with those most affected by your state, both in your life and the hereafter. And then number 7 is modify your financial plan to accommodate for longevity risk and extended healthcare events. I think it's fair to say Michelle and I are both a little OCD in our own special and distinct ways. And so now, just for funsies on here, as Michelle likes to say, I made the 8th intention reward-based and relatively easy, especially since the first intentions were, I don't want to say heavy, but they definitely were serious. Number 8 of our financial intentions for 2023 is to do something crazy this year.
Ooh, I like that.
That's right. Something out of the norm. Check your budget. And if you've met with a financial advisor, like we stated in item 5, have them weigh in. But if you can this year, take a trip.
I like that too.
Buy that project car you've always dreamed about. Mustang, hello. Get on a boat if you're not a boat person. Start painting if you've always dreamed about it but never found the time. make the time to do something you've always dreamed about, but you've always struggled to find the time and or money for. You have earned it. So let's do this. Let's start with the number 5 intention, which is scheduling a meeting with a fiduciary-based financial advisor. So let me explain first what fiduciary means in my world. The term advisor, quotes, is a broad term that it can be applied to anything from an insurance-based salesperson to a fee-based financial advisor to a certified financial planner that only charges a flat planning fee and all points in between. However, the levels of accountability will vary greatly between those different types of advisors. A lot of the level of accountability will be dependent on the type of securities license that an advisor holds and how they are paid for the work they do. Most, not all, but most commission-based advisors, whether they're selling an insurance product such as a fixed index annuity, a variable annuity, or a Class A mutual fund, are held to what's called a suitability standard. That is, they only have to prove that the sale or recommendation that they are making was suitable for the client's situation. Fiduciary-based financial advisors, on the other hand, which typically guys like us don't collect commissions on variable insurance products or Class A mutual funds, we have to always act in our client's best interest in a fiduciary capacity. That is, we must be able to prove that what we put the client into was for the best interest of the client, above and beyond any pay structure or any compensation considerations. Number 6 on our list of financial intentions for 2023, where we recommend that you update your will, do a checkup of your trusts and your beneficiaries, all your assets, insurance policies, and then have an open and honest conversation with the folks that are affected by your estate. Let's first, we're going to discuss this later in the episode, but the vast majority of Americans do not have a will. In fact, probably the people listening to this program right now, if you're being honest with yourself, a lot of them probably don't have a will yet. And what that does is that leaves your heirs and your estate open to probate. It leaves it open to strangers determining the fate of your heirs' inheritance. And unfortunately, all too often, these things, your estate can wind up being inherited property that is being sold on the courthouse steps to the highest bidder. Been through that. You don't want to do that. So as Michelle can attest, a basic will is not expensive, and the amount of money, time, and heartache it can spare is significant. Same goes with checking on the beneficiaries of your assets, in particular your insurance policies. It is not uncommon. It's not an uncommon conversation in our industry where the kids thought they were getting the proceeds of a life insurance contract when the primary insurer passed, but when in fact a long divorced spouse is the recipient because the policy owner failed to correct the beneficiary while they were alive. Any fellow financial advisors or people in financial services industry, you're listening right now and you're shaking your head yes. The final point of this particular resolution, where we recommend having an open, honest discussion with your spouse, if applicable, and definitely with any potential heirs, is as much as a practical recommendation as well as a voice of experience. It can be uncomfortable to have these conversations, especially if it's impossible to split your estate perfectly equal. Like I always tell my 3 kids, I love you all. I don't love you equally. I love you uniquely. But this conversation needs to happen while you're still alive and you're sound mind and body. One of the biggest reasons that families fracture, that brothers end up in court with sisters, things like that, is because the parent or parents didn't take the time, and sometimes the pain, to sit everyone down and discuss how they viewed the situation well before they passed from this earth. So if you're in this situation like this, my opinion is that one of the things that can help you, and we'll circle back around to this, is having a disinterested third party. They can help with this conversation, particularly if they're a professional, such as an attorney, a CPA, or like in my case, a financial advisor. Any of these financial professionals, as long as they're not family or related in some capacity, they won't have a dog in the hunt. And most of us that have done this for a number of years don't mind necessarily being the bad guy if it helps our client solve the estate issues. We don't mind if the heirs are mad at us as long as they're not mad at you. All right, number 7 of our financial intentions refers to making sure your financial plan accommodates longevity risks and extended healthcare events. So first, with longevity, well, I'm going to ask you, Michelle, how long do you think you'll live?
I'm quarter Canadian, and so far it's in the upper 90s, early 100s on the maternal side.
I was going to push back if you said anything less than 92. Yeah. All right, so for longevity, the uncomfortable conversation I mentioned in the previous intention becomes a moot point if you actually end up outliving your money. You're not going to worry about what your kid or your heirs are getting if you're preoccupied trying to figure out how to keep the roof over your head. A comprehensive financial plan can become a valuable tool in accounting for these longevity risks, particularly when it comes to the production of income and preservation of capital. And these are things that we do every week at Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. And then as concerning as an extended healthcare event, or more specifically what people would call a long-term care situation, It's my opinion, it's been my experience that there's no single greater destroyer of wealth. Not down markets, not bad stock picks, any of that, not children that drain you dry. The biggest destroyer of wealth is an unplanned and unfunded long-term care event. Fortunately, the insurance industry in that particular part is as vibrant as it's ever been, with clients to help address this issue, both through traditional long-term care policies and then not necessarily new, but newer, what is referenced as asset-based long-term care. Just know that we have the ability to have these long-term care conversations at Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. We make it part of our comprehensive financial planning process. And so if it's on your mind, please reach out to us, okay? And the last piece of advice on that is do it while you're in reasonably good health, because programs like these are bought with your health as much as your money. So listeners, you've heard me reference the comprehensive financial planning practices. You've also heard me talk about, we laid out the 3 additional financial intentions for 2023. I'm leaving number 8 for later because we're going to have a little fun with that, because that's the one where it's, treat yourself basically. But as we close this segment, let's go back to and quickly look at what our comprehensive financial planning process looks like. First, we figure out how much you'll need for the retirement you've been dreaming about, not the retirement that you settled for. Next, we're going to uncover the main risks posing a threat to your retirement, including inflation, stock market volatility, Michelle's favorite word, potential tax increases, skyrocketing healthcare costs, long-term care events, you name it. Then we're going to discuss options for generating income in retirement and putting your investment portfolio to work, doing specific jobs. And then finally, we're going to discuss how we keep your current standard of living in retirement even as costs keep rising. These strategies we use are designed in part to help you with longevity risk, inflation risk, extended healthcare event risk, all these things. It's all part of the conversation. Not only are we going to be trying to match your risk tolerance with your investment holdings, but we want to make sure that you do not end up outliving your retirement savings. So if you're interested in having this conversation, why don't you give us a call at 251-333-5151 or find us at gulfcoastfa.com. That's GULF, like the Gulf of Mexico, Coast, like the name and the title of the show, FA is in financialadvisor.com. All right, folks, coming up next, there's always a lot going on in the world, particularly the world of finance. It seems that there's major headlines every week affecting investors, especially those in or near retirement. So I want you all to come back after the break to hear Michelle and I discuss this week's relevant headlines in our Michelle with the News of the Week segment. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Coasting in Retirement, a show that you might have heard on Sundays at noon. If you're looking to inflation-proof your retirement and are ready to take that next step, but don't want to wait for one of those upcoming seminars, just give the advisors at Gulf Coast a call today and schedule your no-obligation sit-down with Josh and his team. Maybe it's time for that second opinion after all. Call 251-333-5151 or visit us on the web at gulfcoastfa.com. And make sure to listen on Sundays at noon right here on the Talk 106.5.
Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA 6201 College Boulevard, Suite 150, Overland Park, Kansas 66211. PCIA doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management and Qualified Plan Advisors. PCIA and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors are not affiliated.
Welcome back to Coasting in Retirement. Your host, Josh Knoll here. So as we discussed before the break, it seems like there's major headlines every week affecting investors, especially those in or near retirement. So Coasting in Retirement's co-host, Michelle and I, are going to help you all understand and decipher the deeper meaning of those headlines, particularly the ones that are going to relate to your situation. So without further ado, here's Michelle with the news of the week.
Okay, Josh, let's start with an Investopedia article titled, quote, "When should you hire a financial advisor?" End quote. This is a pretty in-depth article, but I want to highlight a couple of things that I agree with that you have said already in the opening segment. The quote is, if you choose a financial advisor, always make sure that they abide by the fiduciary standards and legal obligations to act in your best interest and disclose any conflicts of interest. Importantly, financial advisors are held to the suitability standard only. So can you explain that more? But firstly, suitability sounds mediocre, right? It seems like it's just okay.
It's a lower bar.
Okay.
It's a lower bar to
It's
chin
like
in.
this dress fits, but it's not phenomenal.
Fair.
So who cares? It's not worth it.
That's good. I like that.
Okay. You tell us more about the difference. I understand the fiduciary.
You
thing.
would, yes,
Yes.
in your background.
Right.
Well, so we first touched on this in the opening segment, but let's summarize for those just tuning in. The suitability standard in my industry means that the product or service being sold to you only has to pass a suitability standard. That is, it only has to be proved suitable for your financial situation. The alternative is fiduciary, which means that the best interests of the clients are required to be served above all else. Now, in this article, Michelle, Investopedia states that financial advisors are held to the suitability standard only. I'm thinking that might even been a typo, if you will, because it's not 100% accurate. My guess is while the proportion of insurance-based and or commission-based financial advisors is far greater than the proportion of fee-based or fee-only advisors, the fact is that the financial services industry has been moving for years towards the fiduciary standard. My guess is also that part of this is because of demand by clients. As opposed to years past, most clients were not necessarily aware. They are aware now of the difference. And if they're given a choice, they will want the fiduciary standard for their financial advisor. Literally, whatever the case, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with selling a product for a commission. I mean, I can name many life insurance salespeople I know that do everything they can to take care of the client. And one could argue that a fee, an advisory fee, is just a commission stretched out over time. But the issue becomes both one of the advisor pledging themselves to a higher standard, that's fiduciary, and then on a practical note, how does that advisor service the client? When you're a commission-based advisor, you're often on the hunt for the next commission because you don't have the recurring revenue stream that is part of being a fee-based advisor. And you all that are listening, because we have people in the industry listening, I'm not picking you all that are commission-based. I started out in my line of work, 13 plus years ago, commission-based. So I get it. So I'm speaking from experience, not just somebody on high throwing shade at you all. But this sometimes can lead, and I know this for a fact too, it can lead to a lack of time to properly service your existing clients because you're always on the hunt. Plus, commissions can be a murky world. The client doesn't know the actual commission being paid. I can tell you from experience, sometimes the agent doesn't know what the actual commission is being paid. So all that said, it's just way more transparent in the fee-based world, in the fee-only world, because the client can see exactly what they're paying to the advisor, and more often than not, the client is paying the advisor directly, called fee-for-service. So there's just a greater amount of control for the client and a greater pull on the advisor to keep servicing said client. That's a very in-depth article by Investopedia. I'm glad we found it, and it's definitely worth the read. So very good. Michelle, what's next?
All right. Okay, so next up is a website that I see quoted a lot. They have a recent article titled 8 2023 resolutions from experienced investors that you can actually keep. So first of all, Motley Fool, get with the program. Intentions are better than resolutions. Everybody knows it. Look it up. Second, I think that they have 7, but then they would be totally copying us. So lastly and seriously, the article states that 70% of Americans don't have a will, which is a lot. Yes. I didn't think it was that much. And I actually write wills. So,
yes, you do.
So I find this tragic and frightening, and it can be easily corrected. You can always change your wills, amend them, get rid of them, blah, blah, blah. So what are your thoughts on this? And by the way, resolutions, Motley Fool, 66% of Americans abandon them by March, which is a better statistic than we had last week.
Okay.
But still, very high.
It is very high. All right, so this relates to our 6th financial intention for 2023, which was update your will, check your trust, your beneficiaries, have a conversation with your spouse, if applicable, or with your heirs. All right. Here's what that leads me to believe why 70% of Americans don't have a will. That last part of that statement, having an open, honest conversation with your heirs. So let me ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask you, Michelle, a couple of questions, lay some groundwork.
Okay.
First, Michelle, who should have a will?
Everyone that has an estate or has stuff that's valuable, at least to them.
Which basically means almost everyone.
Correct.
Right? Great. Next, as someone that has written many wills, how hard is it to write a will?
You know, in general, they're fairly easy. However, I haven't written one for an oligarch or Nick Cannon, for example.
Well, for everyday folks
kids.
like us.
It's pretty easy, actually.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
So as we stated in the opening segment, having a disinterested third party can often tamp down some of the raw emotion that comes with having these type of conversations, particularly in an industry where, if you have a financial professional or an attorney or a CPA help you with that conversation as a disinterested third party, not your brother that's an attorney, that's going to be too close to the fire, but somebody that really doesn't have a dog in the hunt. Now, I will say this, I am somewhat of a fan of Motley Fool. I do read them, but they can be sometimes a little clickbaity. And I dare say a little...
I fell victim to that today.
Right, yeah. I dare say a little Jim Cramer-ish with their short-sightedness, but I do agree on this resolution, and I'll tell you this, if they change the title of the article next year to intentions versus instead of resolutions, we know that they're at least paying attention. And I've already, the Motley Fool name has already been taken, right? So if they do take our intentions, I'm going to get with them and see if they'll call me the Hillbilly Jester so I can get some credit.
I like that.
You like that, the Hillbilly Jester?
It's very Mardi Gras-like. I like it.
All right, what's next?
All right, let's talk about New Year's resolution, aka better known as intention number 7, where you discuss tweaking your financial plan to accommodate extended health care events. So back to one of your favorite sites, Chuck Schwab, which has an article titled, Should You Buy Long-Term Care Insurance? There were a couple of stats that stuck out to me in this article, specifically that according to longtermcare.gov, about 70% of people ages 65 and older will need long-term care at some time in their lives, with women more so than men, with the statistics 79% versus 58% respectively. I'm assuming that's because women live longer, right? So just like the percentage of Americans don't have will, I found these numbers alarming. And what do you have to say about that?
I do think that that's probably pretty accurate, and I do agree with them on the women being a higher percentage of men. So let's start with this. Let's start with some basic facts. We humans are living longer on average than previous generations.
Especially Canadians.
Yeah, especially Canadians. Particularly women, you all tend to outlive us as men. There's an argument for why that is. Yep. As a result, you have a higher chance of needing long-term care. But unfortunately, we are all not necessarily healthier as a culture, as a society. We've got modern medicine that has tackled an unimaginable amount of health issues during the past 100 years or so. We've also developed all kinds of different treatments, ways to extend longevity, extend life. But unfortunately, we've also developed an alarming number of long-term health ailments, such as diabetes, health disease, cancer, orthopedic issues that arrive from being alive for so long, hips going out, things like that. So, Michelle, as we discussed in the opening segment, it's my opinion and definitely my experience that there is no single greater destroyer of wealth. Again, not down stock markets, not bad stock picks, not an unruly kid that drains your estate dry, none of that. The single greatest destroyer of wealth typically is a long-term care event that is unplanned and unfunded. So again, lastly, we'll touch on this quickly because we touched on it in segment 1. Fortunately, the insurance industry in this particular part of it is as vibrant as it's ever been. You have traditional long-term care policies. You have relatively newer asset-based long-term care solutions. You have all these kind of different things. And that will help for the people that are not fortunate enough to either have the assets on their own to pay for the long-term care event or potentially a adult child or family member that can provide the service. And I'll tell you this, folks, just again from experience, having seen this with my own 2 eyes, both professionally and personally, even if you think you have those things addressed, you need to just take a 5-minute Google search and see what an extended healthcare event costs now. See what the facilities cost, see what at-home care costs. It's going to blow your mind a little bit. And there are ways to utilize long-term care programs to help leverage your dollars up so that you have a cushion to go to so that you're not spending down your estate to care for your health. And I can tell you, not only is that a destroyer of wealth, but it also just sucks. It's really mentally and emotionally draining when you have to do that. So lastly, as we said in the opening, if you are interested in those programs, give us a call. Also, do it while you're in reasonably good health. You're going to buy this stuff with your health just as much as you are with your money. So great job. And that was that Chuck Schwab or Charles Schwab? What we got there?
Yeah, that was Chuck Schwab.
Good old Chuck. All right, what we got
Chuck
next?
and RJ so far. But here we go. Well, with one of our favorites, Kiplinger. Always making the headlines. Not to be confused with Kip Winger of the 80s band Winger that Josh likes so much.
I went digging for their tape.
Nobody knows what he's talking about.
I still have their tapes. All 2 albums they made or whatever it was.
2? Are they Canadian or are they from the United States?
I don't know where they're from. But
Okay.
but I can tell you that their
It's
number
raunchy.
1 hit song is not aged well. Yeah.
I wonder if they've aged well.
I don't think so.
I wonder if they have long-term health care insurance.
I'm pretty sure the She's Only 17 has entered the cancel
That might
culture.
be the
probably
legal age
should
in
have.
Canada. I don't know. Maybe if they're Canadian. Who knows?
Sorry, Canadians, listen to us.
Okay.
All right, what do they got?
All right. Kiplinger, and they also give a shout out to the 10,000 Maniacs in this article too. So they
Very
made
good.
that makes up for the Winger reference. Okay. So Kiplinger gives us 3 steps to worry-free splurges for retirees. Okie dokie, artichokies. This is the type of retirement that I want. Let's spend money, have fun, go on trips, So, Kiplinger goes on to say, spending on grand experiences can be a wonderful gift. Yes, as long as you've properly planned. So don't worry and don't feel guilty. Just do it. I like that. Can I do it now? The first quote of this article is, what's money if you can't spend it?
There you go.
Heck yeah.
Well, listen, now we're talking. So I get it. One of the reasons, so we're going to talk about my particular industry. One of the reasons people sometimes hesitate to utilize or even talk to a financial advisor is because sometimes
Buzzkill.
Well, they feel like I'm going to be slapping their hand all the time. And while it's true that the advisors that do it like I do will have an accountability part to our process, at the end of the day, it's your money and your life. And for most of y'all that have worked to a point where you're either about to retire or have retired, you've often spent years doing things you did not want to do and saving money by not doing the things you wanted to do. That's a lot of double negatives in the moment. That's right. And now, see, here's the thing. Now your time has arrived and you've earned it. So just like Kip Winger and Nike both say, just do it. But you got to have a plan. Have the equivalent, in my opinion, the old envelope system where you have dedicated money specifically towards this specific dream or dreams of yours.
I did that in law school. I had envelopes for certain things, for expenses and whatnot.
Very good.
I'm so proud.
Well, and here's the thing. Don't go into debt to make it happen, but also don't be afraid to just live a little if your plan can accommodate the expenditure. I may be a financial advisor, Michelle, but I'm a human being first, and I am pretty sure that no one's gone to the grave being thankful that they saved that last whatever thousands of dollars instead of taking that vacation they've always dreamed about, especially if it involves family, my opinion.
And in the words of 10,000 Maniacs, the great Natalie Merchant, these are the days.
Yes.
To be spending money and having a good time.
Well, and
with proper planning.
And so this was our number 8 financial intention. It was the bonus one. It was meant to be a little silly and a little fun. But I can tell you that if you're in retirement or about to get into retirement and you have a dream, that could be something where you take a trip, where you buy something, where maybe you get something for someone you love the last 4 generations. Share it with your financial advisor. Share it with me, because Michelle will tell you that I will happily share my dream of buying a travel trailer. And,
among others.
right.
The list.
The list, yes, the list that we referred to earlier. And just make it part of your plan. So, very good. That was fun. Do we have time for one more?
I think so.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this is a flashback from our previous episode because we liked it so much and it was fresh. So, all of this financial talk can be boring as well, so it's fun to reuse a headline from our previous episode on financial intentions. So I think if we successfully establish that people should make New Year's intentions versus resolutions.
Took us 2 episodes to do it, but I think we've done it.
Yeah, and we're backed up by this article. But just to prove it's not just us, and there's a deeper meaning behind the methodology, the final article is from Psychology Today, and can of course be found under the motivation section. And the article is titled, Better Than a Resolution, Try a New Year's Intention. We agree. And this article also went on to call every Monday a mini New Year's to help
which you love, which we can live by.
To have a reset every week.
Well, I'm telling you,
check in with yourself.
This Wednesday is my new Monday, which means it's my new year. That's how I've started this out.
Okay.
So first, Michelle, let's revisit your fantastic explanation of resolutions versus intentions. Intentions are courses of action versus resolutions that are more of a determination. Resolutions equal outcome, intentions equal process. We typically don't have guests or callers on this show, right, Michelle?
Typically no, but we do have a repeat guest today.
I think it's time to call in one of the biggest proponents of process, our esteemed guest, Coach Saban of the University of Alabama. Coach, how you doing? I want to hear a little bit of your thoughts on process as we close this segment.
Well, I think you have to have a process orientation. I like the way you guys are talking about that. All right. And I think, the process applies not only to football, all right, but to, your finances as well, and everything you do. All right. In life, everything you do is a process. All right. You can't worry about the end results. All right. If you take care of the process, the end results, all right, they're going to take care of themselves. And I think you guys are both, sort of on the right track. And, you both do a great job. And Gulf Coast Financial does a great job in creating a lot of value, positive value for a lot of people.
Okay, Coach, I got to jump in.
Well, we appreciate that, Coach.
Yeah, we're going to jump into the testimonial side there. So, thank you, Coach Saban, for coming in. Process equals outcome. Nobody's a bigger process believer than old Coach Saban. Thank you for joining us. All right, Michelle, great job with the headlines. These are all important pieces of information that impact those in or near retirement. for those of you listeners that are impacted by this news of the week, some of the particular topics that we talked about, and you're interested in learning more, we invite you to take action and start the conversation. You can call us at 251-333-5151 or find us at gulfcoastfa.com. That's GULFCOASTFA.com. All right, folks, coming in after the break, regular listeners are used to co-host Michelle and I getting to poke a little fun at myself. We have a segment normally titled Where Josh Nailed It, where Josh was a little off. Now, in this segment, I normally get to share some opinions that I've made public that proved to be fairly accurate. And for balance, I get to share a few where I didn't quite stick the landing. But with New Year's upon us and the fact that we have done this two-part miniseries about New Year's intentions, not resolutions, we're going to throw a little twist in for this episode. So before I kick it to the break, let me ask you listeners, have you ever made a New Year's resolution that you didn't keep? Maybe you didn't keep it for a few weeks, like the whole workout thing. I have. So even if you're a super planner like Michelle, more likely than not, you have whiffed on a few, right? So
Yes.
I want you all to tune in after the break to hear me and Michelle discuss times where our best intentions proved accurate, and maybe sometimes we're human after all with our New Year's resolutions. We'll see you after the break.
Hi, Michelle here. If you're looking to inflation-proof your retirement and are ready to take that next step, but don't want to wait for one of those upcoming seminars, just give the advisors at Gulf Coast Financial Advisors a call today and schedule your no-obligation in-person review with Josh and his team. Maybe it's time for that second opinion. Make sure to call 251-333-5151 or visit us on the web at gulfcoastfa.com. That's GULFCOASTFA as in financial advice.
Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA 6201 College Boulevard, Suite 150, Overland Park, Kansas 66211. PCIA doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management and Qualified Plan Advisors. PCIA and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors are not affiliated.
Welcome back to Coasting in Retirement. So for regular listeners of the show, this is the segment where we typically get to discuss some of the opinions and thoughts that I've expressed publicly. We typically call it Where Josh Nailed It and Where Josh was a little off. But again, with the New Year's upon us, we're going to go along with the theme of the show, which for those of you all just coming in, the theme of the show is New Year's intentions, not resolutions. And we're going to mix it up a little bit for this episode. Michelle and I are going to share our past New Year's resolutions, maybe even some of our new New Year's intentions. And we're going to talk about some of those that proved pretty accurate. And then to be fair and to go along with the normal segment, we're going to talk about the times that we swung and missed. I have a feeling it'll be mostly me talking about the times I swung and missed. But this will require us to be open and honest with you listeners. And in my case, I'll probably be a little raw because I'm a open, very emotional, personal person. And I tend to be a little open with some of my opinions. So this is going to involve Michelle's statements as mine. What I'll do is I'll start with one that I nailed this last year. So you ready, Michelle?
I'm ready.
Okay. So last year, January 2022, I promised myself that I would do everything I could to help me and the kids overcome a ridiculous personal situation by finding and buying a nice home in a great neighborhood, one that would allow them to meet new friends and have new experiences. So remember, folks, what I just said, what's a big deal? That's not that hard. For you listeners that are not familiar with Fairhope, Baldwin County, Lower Alabama, Eastern Shore, go on down the line. Finding a home for me and 3 kids in a nice neighborhood and yada, yada, yada in January of 2022 was a tall order. It was a red hot housing market, again, especially on our part of the Gulf Coast. And it was an experience. But again, this is where Michelle and I nailed it, where we were a little off. So on this, I nailed it. I was able to find the kids a great neighborhood down the road. It's a growing neighborhood. Some would say maybe growing too fast. It's got a great clubhouse. I hit the neighbor lottery when I moved next door to my neighbor, Brandon. I'll give a shout out to him. Unbelievable, great neighbor. He just happened to have a daughter that was the same age as my daughter. They became best friends. In fact, they're hanging out right now while we're in the studio. And with that resolution, not only was I able to give my kids a great landing spot, it also allowed me to build a home that Michelle and I and all our friends and my family could enjoy, which is what I've experienced this past year. So with that resolution, I nailed it. It was touch and go when I made it. It's something that had to happen, but was it going to happen to the degree that it did? That was up in the air. Fortunately, I nailed it. So very good. Yay to me. All right, Michelle, you're next. What is something that you expressed either via a resolution or an intention in the past New Year's, and it had to be last year, you can dig deep, that either worked out or was a little off?
Okay. I am going to use last year's 2022.
Okay.
And it was an intention.
Okay.
And the intention was to find a new and better job with an easier commute. And that was my only intent. That wasn't my only intent, but that was my
That was
only
your big
intent.
one.
That was my big one
That was a
because
big
it's
one.
hefty and it was very significant. And I nailed period
Capital letters.
yay me.
Yes. Yes, you did. Can I add context?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we won't go specifically mention any towns or anything like that, but we can. If you don't mind me
for
saying,
about an hour and a half commute each day.
right?
To
And
20 to 10 each way. 10
now
minutes
city
each way.
planner in one of the fastest growing towns along not just along the Gulf Coast, but in the southeast in the country, Fairhope, Alabama, where we're recording right now. And you did nail it. Great leadership there.
Yes.
Yeah. Great mayor.
Enjoying it. Yep.
Give a shout out to
Sherry Sullivan.
Yes. And what you found is just really kind of a family feeling to the employees you're working with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's we have something to do with one of the fastest and best places to live in the United States.
Well, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right.
There is.
Yeah, you are not one. Listeners that don't
Got her
know
pulse on
Michelle, you can probably get an idea from her voice and her energy. She's not one to sit still very well. Neither am I. But definitely in something where you're busy all the time. It's in a growing community. There's a lot of positive things going on. It's also things where you got to tackle and get your hands dirty and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
All right, very good. Well, you did great with that.
I agree.
Some would say
Everybody we know agrees. So,
everybody agrees. Some would say you manifested that.
I think that has to do with a lot of the process, and the psychology part of it. Manifest it, think it, and it will come. Yes.
Yeah. Here in a minute, I'm gonna give the definition.
And start making strides towards it.
All right.
Just dreaming.
So I'm up next. So again, listeners tuning in, this is the segment where we say where Josh nailed it, where Josh was a little off, because we're doing New Year's intentions, not resolutions. We're bouncing back and forth from Michelle and I, and we're talking about some of the things that we intended in the past, or maybe New Year's resolutions, intentions we made this year. So I mentioned in the beginning of the segment, I was going to get a little raw. So here it is. This is an area where I was a little off. And if my mom's listening, sorry, should be talking about you, Mom. But for too many years, I had the resolution that I would help my mom and dad build their dream home, get it designed and built on some family land they owned back in Wappapello, Missouri, where I'm from. The land is called Punch Lake. It's, I'd say, roughly 8 to 10 acre lake that was part of the bend of an old river called the St. Francis that used to flow through out of the Ozarks into the flatlands. My family, my grandma and grandpa, bought the land many, many years ago. Gosh, I want to say back in the 50s, 60s. I could be wrong. Don't get mad at Esther. But they bought it. It was a family kind of place that we all gathered for many years. My grandma and grandpa passed away about 10 years ago. Through various time period, my dad ended up buying it, and that's where they intend to build a house and live. So for the past handful of years, I have been a little off. I've been able to help them, and it bothers me greatly. Let me explain. As you can tell, I come from a big, close, emotional, country, intertwined family. The generations of that family they can do, some families, the generations do their own thing relative to the next generation. My family, for better or worse, tends to think in legacy terms. We tend to all pull together. So when I say that I want to help my mom and dad build their dream house, it's not meant to be in a condescending way. They're more than able to do it on their own. They may not even need my help. It's just based on the fact that, one, the land means so much to us, to our family. It means so much to my mom and dad, particularly my dad. And it's really based on the fact that I wouldn't even have a financial planning practice down here along the Gulf Coast if it wasn't for their support. And when you do things to help each other, in my family, you do it for each other, and that's just how it is. So once again, in 2023, not a resolution, an intention, is to help my mom and dad along their path of building their dream home on Punch Lake. So I think this year is going to be a little different. In some parts of my life, I'm not held back by an anchor. I am set free by a kite, if you will. And I will figure out how to help them along on that path. Again, not that they necessarily need me guiding them along, but I was a home builder in a previous life, built and or remodeled about 40 homes, so I do have some experience. And this is really one of my, as Michelle said in her part, there are little intentions, there's big intentions. This is definitely one of the big intentions. So on that, I was a little off, but I intend to change that this year. So, all right, Michelle, back to you. Do you have another one?
I have
one that you can say on air.
Yes, I have a resolution that a lot of people can identify with. A former resolutions I don't do anymore, and it's to lose weight. You get older, gravity's a drag,
Yes.
metabolism slows down. Ugh. So anyway, you just write down lose weight. Okay, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
How do you do
That's
it?
a resolution.
What makes you
I need an intention.
drink the extra beer or eat the extra cupcake or what have you? So you got to focus on the mindset and the intention and the process. And now we know the psychology has something to do with it. And then when you look at it and you have the process, you might be working out more, which could help you lose weight. Maybe, but muscle weighs more than fat. So then with the process, you might just be getting healthier, even though you might maintain the same weight or even gain some in muscle. So just losing weight might not always be good.
If I had to guess, the vast majority of people want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Is that
And that's
fair?
why the gym's packed
Right
yesterday and the day before.
Yeah, and then by February, March.
by the end of this week, it's going to be,
Please.
football's going to be back on, whatever. Yeah, no.
Well, so let's talk about that if you don't mind.
I think that article actually read by January 7th. It's like kersplat for most people. They're like, I can't do it.
I hear you. All right, so since this in theory right now, this is a financial planning radio show, I'm going to selfishly take that and turn it into something that talks about our practice, because I had this conversation with a potential client today.
Okay.
So when folks, everybody knows the ABCs of money, right? It's what your grandma told you. It's spend less than you make, put some away. Don't have an expensive lifestyle.
I thought that was a trick question. Like there was actually an A that started with an A and a P. I'm like,
what do you call that? Well, anyway, it's
always
not.
pay cash.
Well, everybody knows the ABCs of money. You know what I mean? You know the basics of money, just like everybody knows the ABCs of working out and getting healthy, right? So sometimes people will say, well, what good are you? When I already know how to do certain things with money, why do I need your assistance? And I put it
I know how to spend money.
Well, right. But I put it to them this way.
That's easy.
Everybody knows how to work out. Everybody knows where the gym is. Planet Fitness, very affordable. Other gyms, you know what to eat. You don't eat fried foods like I do too much. Don't eat the ice cream that Michelle was referring to, so on and so forth. But what is the difference when you go into a gym, average person, and you just decide, I'm just going to get in shape, I'm just going to work out, and I'm going to eat better and all da-da-da-da-da. Well, sometimes it works out. Some people have the discipline and the know-how and all that. But often, if someone will bring a personal trainer along on that journey, the results that they will see are significantly greater than what they could achieve on their own. So what do I mean by that? You got somebody there that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to encourage you, maybe even admonish you sometimes, but you got somebody there that not only is going to be your guiding light or your guide, if you will, but also somebody that hopefully knows a few things about working out and or eating that maybe you don't, can keep you from getting hurt. Hey, don't do the bench press this way, do it this way. That'll save your shoulders, so on and so forth. So i.e., transposing that over to what I do, that's basically what we do, at least the financial advisors that do it like I do, is we are kind of a guide for somebody that's trying to get financially fit. Most people already know how to get financially fit, but if they have a guide that's there can show them, hey, don't do this because this will hurt. Try this because this will drop 5 pounds, whatever it may be. You get the metaphor. I think it's a metaphor. Yeah. When you're doing that as a guide, typically, generally speaking, you have a accountability partner that helps you get along further down the path than what you may have done on your own. So that is, I'm taking your losing weight and I'm totally turning it into a teaching lesson here.
I
So
like it.
you like it? All right, very good. All right, so Michelle, we have time for one more. Should we see what our producer, Mike Romano, has?
Let's see. Last year, I think you hit the nail on the head. Was getting in shape, and that lasted about a week.
That's normal.
This week, hey, I'm trying it again. I'm going at it again, and so like I said, so far so good. I'm starting out slow, just kind of. Because I think if you start out, you're right. If you start out trying to put too much on yourself, you're gonna burn out by week
makes
one.
You sore.
Well, here, Mike.
So I'm starting out just by doing the cardio, just the walking and getting, kind of gaining the momentum that I'd like to gain before I go all hardcore.
Well, all right. So, Mike, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Mike Romano, producer. Right. We are recording in Archangel, which is Catholic radio. We're in downtown Fairhope. Mike is a very spiritual guy.
Yeah.
Yes, and one that I always look to, that religious, spiritual, good man, so on and so forth.
Try to be.
Yeah. So, on your resolutions in the past, have you ever done anything related to the spiritual? Or do you feel like you've already checked that box?
Yes, I have, and that was to read something, I think, spiritual each month, and so I did that, nailed that.
All right.
One thing I haven't done spiritual wise, which I've just started doing, was
I have a little app, which is the Bible in a year. I think it's like YouVerse or something like that.
Devotion app.
Daily devotional app, right. And they've got a program of the Bible in 1 year. And that I have not done. I've done something spiritual, like a little devotional each day. But that I'm sticking to it so far. I'm on, like I said, I'm on day 4. So
yeah.
I'm sticking to that. And what I like about it is it makes it into digestible, tidbits. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming
right. Because I think it's so easy, to really just get overwhelmed, and you lose a couple of days, and you're like, what the heck? You lose a month, and you're like, I'm never going to get that back. Yeah, forget about it. Exactly.
All right, well, very good. Well, I'm going to close then this segment with 2 things. One, Michelle, hope you don't mind speaking for us, but on the spiritual thing, one of our intentions last year was to
that's actually. I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Start going to church.
That's right,
and we did.
Yes,
and we are. Yes, we didn't quit.
Josh actually went to church on Christmas.
I did, and we have an incredible pastor, and we always walk out of there just feeling so glad that we came. Yep.
Feel a lot better.
Yep, and definitely an attention. That is one where we nailed it. Mike nailed it. That's good advice. This is not a religious show, definitely, but those are things that absolutely will make you feel better about yourself. So, all right, so folks, we're going to close this part. We have one more segment coming up, the mailbag segment. Before we say that, though, we went through the top 7 financial intentions that retirees and pre-retirees should have for 2023. Again, we made the definition of the intention, which is process-driven, versus resolution, which is determination-driven. Thank you, Michelle, for that definition. And we did the first 4 because we didn't have time for all 7 of them. If y'all will tune in next week, we'll do the final 3 of those, and we'll probably throw in a bonus one. I did 7 because Michelle likes odd numbers for some reason.
I do like odd numbers.
Yeah, 3, 5, 7, so on and so forth, right? But
11, 13.
Depending on the time of the show, we have one more. So make sure you tune in next week to hear the remainder of this. Until then, have a great week. After the break, we are going to get into our mailbag of the week question. This has been Coasting in Retirement. See you after the break.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Coasting in Retirement, a show that you might have heard on Sundays at noon. If you're looking to inflation-proof your retirement and are ready to take that next step, but don't want to wait for one of those upcoming seminars, just give the advisors at Gulf Coast a call today and schedule your no-obligation sit-down with Josh and his team. Maybe it's time for that second opinion after all. Call 251-333-5151 or visit us on the web at gulfcoastfa.com. And make sure to listen on Sundays at noon right here on the Talk 106.5.
Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA 6201 College Boulevard, Suite 150, Overland Park, Kansas 66211. PCIA doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management and Qualified Plan Advisors. PCIA and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors are not affiliated.
Welcome back to Coasting in Retirement. Your host, Josh Knoll here. So, Michelle, great show.
Yay!
Yes, we did a great job. So every week we try to get to a listener's question if we have time. So I think we got a little time left. So Michelle, why don't we check the mailbag and see if there's any questions that need answered?
All right. Here is one from Harold in Wapapello, Missouri. Lots of syllables in Wapapello.
Yeah, can I buy
Missouri.
a vowel, Pat?
Do you feel that the media is overly negative on our economy? And if you do, will you tell Harold and the rest of us why?
All right, great. Well, so first, thank you for the question, Harold from Wapapello, Missouri. And full disclosure to listeners, Harold is my dad, so this is a little radio reverse nepotism going on here. But Harold, you asked, is the media overly negative on the economy? And if so, why? So here's the thing. When it comes to the economy, and particularly the stock market, which is a big part of the financial news that you hear Michelle and I read when we do the news of the week, I sincerely doubt that there's many website readers, including myself, or even a handful of newspaper readers left, like my dear Luddite Michelle, co-host here.
I like newspapers. I'm very sad. I like to have the ink on my fingers. It's something tangible.
Well,
I enjoy it.
Okay, fair enough. Would you read an article titled, "Stock Market Calm Today? Traders Left Twiddling Their Thumbs. Buyers and sellers operating in harmony," or something like that?
Probably, because that's a little bit positive and not, it's crashing and burning, the world's ending, everybody's broke.
Well, okay. So here's the thing.
So there.
You're the exception. You're also the person who reads newspapers still. So let's talk about the rest of us. More likely not. Here's it's what sells, right? And it needs to be dramatic to cut through and grab people's attention. I'm not even necessarily talking about clickbait. I'm talking about things where someone makes a really dramatic prediction. I mean, I can't tell you how many times just on Forbes or Bloomberg, and Bloomberg's, in my opinion, probably one of the better financial websites out there. But it's every other day, it's somebody predicting there's going to be a 20% decline in the housing market. There's going to be a 30% decline in the stock market.
These soothsayers.
And then 2 days later, they'll be like, well, no, actually, we think there might be a 5%, increase in whatever it may be. The thing is this, and I'll give credit to my dad. He said this before, but anytime that you want to show the highest water mark and make the biggest impact on your description, go to the lowest level that you can to look at it. And so I think what happens with these articles is they will take a stance that is so far to one side or the other of the actual topic, and they'll do it in a way so that the problem or the issue seems bigger than it is. Are there problems with the economy? Sure. There's definitely problems in the economy, and I would argue that if you take a step back and look at the global economy, developing nations actually have a much more difficult path ahead of us than we do, and possibly even some of Western Europe and Britain. And part of that is just simply the fact that the dollar is so strong right now that a lot of their debt is in denominations of dollars. Now they're looking at having to have a significant part of their budget even to service their debt, which slows down their entire economy. Even Western Europe, they have obviously the war in Ukraine. They have things they've got to deal with shortfalls of supplies of fuel and food and things like that. But here's the thing: if you want to talk about America, is the economy bad? That's hard to argue. Not hard to argue. It's hard to take a clear look at it when you read these headlines, because what happens a lot of times is you get skewed thinking things are going one way or the other. When if you'll just take a look at the economy and look at both employment rates, you look at inflation coming down, you look at productivity, you look at the fact that we are on a path of being able to supply a lot of our own energy, we can supply a lot of our own food. There's a lot of positive things going on. So a long way of answering your question, Harold, Dad, is that, yeah, I do feel the media is definitely overly negative and sometimes overly positive when they're talking about the economy, because that's how they get attention. And a lot of times it's like everything else, so many other things that we talk about on this show, there's no context provided. What part of the economy are you talking about? Just in my business, when somebody makes a broad-based statement, we've discussed annuities in the past. The first question I have for them is, what type of annuities are you talking about? Because it's a very different conversation that you're having about the different pieces of the economy. So, Michelle, you got anything to add before we close the show on that question? No. She's reading her newspaper,
yes.
Listeners. Yeah.
Going back to my print.
That's right. All right. So listen, folks, we can help with deciphering some of this. We can be kind of the calm voice. We definitely have some experience when it comes to a very valid question by my dad, Harold, because more often than not, people will come in when they've got investment accounts and they'll see this constant bad drum beating news, and they'll want to know, how does that affect me individually? And we've got the experience and hopefully the knowledge to help you navigate that. If you want to continue that conversation, why don't you give us a call at 251-333-5151, or you can always make an appointment on our website at gulfcoastfa.com. All right, so folks, that's it for us here this week in Coasting Retirement. I want to give a huge thank you to my lovely co-host, Michelle Lee Melton.
Welcome.
A thank you to our awesome radio station, 106.5 FM. Many thanks to the provider of the show music, that is local band Sloth Racer. You all can find them just with a simple Google search. A thanks to our producer, Mike Romano, and also a thanks to the studio we're using today, which I can never pronounce correctly. So Michelle,
Archangel Radio.
There you go. Thank you. And as always, my sincere appreciation for all you out there that have been listening and joining us on this journey. We would love to be part of your journey as well. So until we talk again next Sunday, have a wonderful and productive week. This has been Coasting in Retirement with Josh Knoll.
Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, 6201 College Boulevard, 7th floor, Overland Park, Kansas, 66211. Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management and Qualified Plan Advisors, and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors are not affiliated. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, Prime Capital Investment Advisors, Prime Capital Wealth Management, and Qualified Plan Advisors do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This content has been prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. The information provided herein is not a complete analysis of every material fact regarding any strategy. It is intended only to provide insight into the opinions of the author. All information presented is for educational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Content offers commentary and generalized research, not personalized investment advice, and is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a complete description of our investment services or performance. All investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified legal professional and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here.